Welcome to Inspiring Innovation, where your host, Sean Frost, is joined by experts in the manufacturing industry to discuss bringing big ideas to life. Join us every episode for a deep dive into manufacturing trends, processes, innovation, and how to be successful in the ever-changing world of manufacturing.
Welcome back to another episode of Inspiring Innovation. We have a very special guest today. So this episode drops every second Tuesday. If you like the content, please like the episode. Please subscribe to the podcast, and we appreciate you listening and tuning in. So our podcast today is going to talk about second chance hiring and personal growth. And our guest is a good friend, a good colleague, somebody who I respect tremendously and who inspires me on a regular basis. You know, somebody who I compete with in bags and darts whenever I'm able to. So today we're going to welcome Monica Pyles, who is a customer success manager on the sales team. And so Monica, thanks for joining us. Can you share a little bit about your personal journey with us and the challenges that you faced before joining Polo?
Sure. My name's Monica, and I've been with Polo, at the corporate office for about a year and going on 2 years. Really close to 2 years.
Time flies in manufacturing.
Right. I started out as a customer account specialist post-incarceration, and I was incarcerated for 7.5 years. My journey has been something that I probably need to write a book about. So I started out pretty traumatic childhood, was able to come through that and use my survival techniques to create a substantial life for myself. However, a lot of undealt with unresolved trauma led me to some poor choices, and I ended up in prison for 7.5 years. I had faced a lot of challenges when I was about to get released. I was in a facility full of women that thought that getting out of prison without a job was normal and that was expected, and they were complacent and ready to accept that. And I just was not ready to accept that. I was determined that I was going to leave prison with a job. I didn't care if it was McDonald's. It was happening. And I had a lot of challenges and people that were just not necessarily willing to help me obtain that goal. But I knocked on a lot of doors. I pushed a lot of buttons. I really had a committed heart and a made up mind that I was going to leave with a job. And so I asked, and I didn't take no for an answer. And I applied for jobs while I was in prison, and Polo ended up being the one that gave me a second chance. And so I left with a job, full-time job with them as a customer account specialist. Quickly, I ended up being promoted to a customer success manager, and that is my current role with them right now, with you guys.
Yeah, no, you've been a huge asset to our team. I get praise from customers wherever I go when they work with you about how responsive you are and how quickly you find answers to their questions and find solutions to potential hiccups that inevitably occur in today's post-COVID manufacturing world. So we really appreciate all that you contribute to our team and the perspective that you bring. Can you share a little bit about your experience before incarceration, and how did that help you transition into your current role at Polo?
Sure. So I was in the medical field really my whole life. I started passing meds for a company that dealt with the developmentally disabled when I was 16. I worked there until I completed high school and decided that I was going to go to the military because I didn't have a lot of family and I just wanted that security. I was married early and stayed in the medical field. I was combat medic in the military, in the Air Force. And my husband at the time had also went to the military. And so I only did a short time. I did 2 years and then I got out and went back and got my LPN. And so then I did nursing for the remainder of my time until I was incarcerated. And that played a pivotal role in really what I do now, the division that I work in being fire and safety and government. I understand that technical language, having had leadership skills before and customer relationship skills, being able to problem solve. And I don't know everything, manufacturing was not my forte, but all the other skills that go along with it really helped me be able to obtain this job and succeed and still be able, even though I don't have all of the manufacturing experience that others have, I do know how to establish and maintain relationships with people, and I'm a go-getter and I will figure it out. So that's really what helped me.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I don't remember the statistic, but I think there's a couple that I'm thinking of that your background really speaks to, which is workforce with a lot of people retiring. We have shortages in the workforce across the board in this country. And we also have higher incarceration rates in this country than most developed countries. And so I think your background is really valuable in terms of when other companies are thinking about second chance hiring, knowing that people from all walks of life and experience fall into those categories or make mistakes or have trauma in their past life, but that doesn't mean that they should be overlooked for employment.
Oh, yeah. It's actually 87% of women. I can't really speak to men. They kind of fall in a different assessment, criminalistic behavior and things like that. But 87% of women are incarcerated because of trauma-based issues that went undealt with. And so they either have dependency issues because of it, they have codependent behavior issues, they have just living in straight survival mode, PTSD. And so very few, that leaves a very small percentage that have alarming and needed isolation from society, right? Like these are sociopaths or these are people that have mental health issues far beyond what can be trusted necessarily in the workforce, and they require more help. But you've got an 87% untapped labor pool of people that just need help. They just need someone to say, you know what, I'm going to take you on, even at a risk, and I'm going to invest in you and the benefit that you get out of that. I mean, you can't put a price tag on that. It's very valuable to a company. And the loyalty that you will get behind that individual that you invested in, they will stick it out through, with that company where others would just leave. And what I found when I got out post-pandemic is that nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to work. I don't know who would be so picky as to not open their mind and their company's perspective and just, at least attempt to, take advantage of the untapped labor pool. These people, there are people that they want to work.
Absolutely. Those are powerful points. And I want to get back to some of your story and what challenges you face when transitioning into a corporate environment, into, the world post-release. I mean, I think you potentially took about a week to get everything in order before you came in, and that probably wasn't enough. So could you speak to that transition, what that was like for you?
So I was really aggressive. I thought I only needed about 5 days, right? So I could go and get a driver's license and a few clothes and I'll be good. Set all my other appointments up, and I was a real go-getter before, and I had been through so much in life that I thought there's no way that this could be that bad. I'm getting out of prison. This is great. Well, there was what they call reintegration stress, where it actually it really immobilizes your body. I think of attempting to drive a car after not touching a vehicle or even being in a vehicle for 7.5 years. I thought it was going to be like riding a bike and everything would be fine. I get in it and drive as if I did before I went to prison. That is not the way that it happened. And I had to get on the highway to come to corporate. It was the most stressful car ride I've ever been on. I was frantic, and I handled things, I think, relatively well. And I couldn't, but even before I came to the office, the whole, going to Walmart and being in that large of an area with all of the people and all of the options that you are restricted from, and you just don't know how to function. Your body just freezes up and you're just like, this is too much. It's overstimulation when you've been isolated for so long. When I did start working, it was very difficult for me to concentrate and retain what was being taught to me in the moment because I was so hyper aware of my surroundings. Doors opening and closing and things going around. You have to be on alert and in constant threat assessment mode in prison. And that's not how it is in the real world. And so you go through all of these things, and it's not just stressful. It's like, it's trauma. Like, it's traumatizing. You're trying to keep it together. And so, giving those couple of examples, if you can, imagine, which they have simulators now, which are great. Imagine what it would be like to be that person and really provide some grace and mercy if you were to hire a second chancer. And that's why it's really important. And I'm a strong believer in being transparent about my past and talking, because how would they know to exercise that? They would think I was just maybe not fit for the job. Maybe this isn't, if they did not know, so that they can be aware and they can exercise that grace and mercy when you need it, and be patient and kind of wait it out with you and be there and offer their support if needed, which, me being transparent with Polo has allowed them to be that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I remember you mentioned Walmart, a toothbrush incident that was pretty tough for you. There's just too much selection.
I just wanted the toothbrush I had in prison. I just wanted That's all I wanted. There was too many, and I'm like, okay, was mine soft or was it medium? Was it large, small? I don't know. I've been using the same one that I didn't get in a package for the past 10 years. I got no idea. I just know it fit right. And so I was I ended up leaving because I remember walking in, and legit, I could not see past like maybe 10 or 15 feet in front of me. It's almost like a mouse that's in a cage, and that mouse only spins on that wheel for all of its life. And then, if you were to open a door and then the mouse not leave, and you're like, oh, I didn't, this is your chance at freedom. And they're like, no, I'm just going to spin on this wheel because it's what I've been doing forever. And so it was probably something I would have never been able to predict that I was going to feel.
Right.
Then it's a hit to your self-esteem well, Sean, my personality. So I'm like, get it together. What is going on? And I still have struggles even to this day.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say 7.5 years is a long time. And I don't think the world changed more during any period in history than the time that you were away. So I feel like the technology and everything coming back to you was also a big transition as well.
Oh yeah. And then the whole phrase, if you don't use it, you lose it, is real. Just, basic outlook. And I'm like, was this the way it looked? And yes, it had been upgraded, but not to the point where I shouldn't be able to navigate it. Mm-hmm. It was, my phone. I'd never had an iPhone before. Having a chip card and a debit card. I had never had a chip card and a debit card. Going to the bank and they were able to give me my debit card right then. I thought that was just the best thing since sliced bread. I'm like, I don't have to wait on this in the mail. There were so many things. And so the technology portion of it, and I used to pride myself on being super witty and quick, but when you're overstimulated, you can only absorb and retain so much. you just have to go through the motions and really exercise patience with yourself. And it was tough.
Absolutely. I can't even imagine. And, not to mention, we touched on technology there, but we have a pretty, I would say, advanced and involved ERP system to get used to and to train on and to do order entry and to manage, raw materials and production lead times and work with schedulers and, all the things that we do within our system to collaborate within our company and our different locations. Can you discuss a little bit about how you've grown professionally and what skills you've developed? I mean, you already mentioned you've received a promotion, but could you speak to that professional journey that you've been on with Polo in the last 2 years? Can't believe it's been 2 years already.
Yeah, it's been very progressive. So the things that I've learned here, not having a whole lot of manufacturing in my background, and definitely not working in a corporate setting for a manufacturer, So business etiquette, period, was not my forte. And just learning how things are working, how everything works together, I guess the need for further education, definitely that. It's pressed me that I want to go back to school and all of those things. Even though I have a degree, it's not a usable degree because of my background now. But as far as, software training, I would say at like a proficient level, at basic software. So we're talking, Outlook and Word and the ERP system that you're talking about, even when even social, like Teams, Zoom, all of the things that I maybe had used once or twice before incarceration. It wasn't a need in the workforce, in the field that I was in. So the interpersonal communication and interpersonal relationships with customers and internally with other plants I've grown tremendously. And I thought I was a pretty good communicator before, but it's on a whole nother level now. And the perspective kind of like aligning with what I already had and looking at things differently and kind of being open to thinking outside of just my tunnel vision, and allowing all these other ideas and people that have been in this a lot longer than me, just kind of sharpening all the skills, leadership skills, definitely attention to detail, and all the things you need to just be successful in any field you're in. Mm-hmm. But definitely Polo has trained me up and continues to train me daily. And I just absorb more and more. And the more I relax over, time of being out, I can see that my retention has just grown, where I'm able to say, okay, now you're telling me something and I'm able to actually get it, use it, and not have to go over it 5 times, and really be able to execute using what I'm being taught. So I appreciate it.
No, I mean, that's one thing that I will just selfishly plug is just how amazing our working environment is, how amazing our team is. And we've got a lot of great people and we're always striving to get better. I think our team's learning a lot together and always finding ways to try to deliver for our customers even better than we did before. And you bring a lot of value to the table in terms of solutions that we're working through and processes that we're questioning. And so anyways, I've seen the growth and appreciate you and all that you contribute to our team. And so definitely a two-way street there. You kind of touched on this, but I'd like to go a little deeper with it if you're okay with it, which is how do your experiences from being incarcerated make you a little bit more perceptive to maybe interpersonal things in the workplace and understanding in terms of where people are coming from too?
Kent says it the best, that we have more in common than we have differences. And it's so true. But sometimes you look past that. And I care more about getting to a resolution and really being there and hearing people out and understanding why there might be a delay, a issue, or someone needing help, and kind of like those cues, those that you and I key into those. But also, I lived in an environment for so long with working and having to live with the most difficult group of people that you can possibly imagine, from the most diverse backgrounds. And you either have to be accepting and open and, not just jump to conclusions and really try to get along and to help, or you're not going to survive in there. You're just not. And so I guess when I have like a mothering nature about myself anyway, that's just like characteristic of mine, but it's more than that. When you talk about leadership and just caring for people, execute that. I have a love for people. I like investing in people. I think that it's more than worth the payoff, even if not everybody's a success story, but it plays a pivotal role in how it doesn't really matter, corporate, medical, I'm working a floor at the hospital. It doesn't matter how you interact with one another, how perceptive you are to what's going on in the workforce as a team, in your team, as your internal team, even as we're talking about other plants that aren't necessarily right there at corporate, just being able to communicate and keep that relationship healthy.
That's a great way to transition really into our next question, which is, can you discuss your efforts on how you're supporting other women that are transitioning back into society after incarceration now?
Oh, yeah. So God has really put it on my heart that, I know how I felt when I was about to be released and how devastating it was that all women had just become okay with the fact that, they have to get out and have nothing. That I just am determined that that's not going to be the case. And what was good for me isn't just because of me, it is good for everybody. If you are committed enough, it will happen. And so I have several different ways that I reach out. There's a nonprofit organization that I work with, actually is part-time employed by, that's faith-based, that we go into prisons. They have a whole reentry program for the women that is dedicated to finding them, to exposing them to God if they want it. Whether they do or don't, they still are also given an immense amount of resources in financial education, financial stability classes, as well as technology training, simulation now for pre-release, and then also an extensive amount of resources for when you are released, to include that first trip. When you're being picked up by a staff member of your choice, you get taken to a local store where you're bought all of your essentials. You are hooked up with housing, faith-based communities that are nonprofit in the community that will help you and guide you, so you don't have to go back to the same people or same whatever the situation was you came from, because you didn't get to prison selling Girl Scout cookies. So there was something there that maybe you don't need to go back to. Just to know that you have a support system, a daily support system, and a mentorship with somebody of your choice or someone that's been assigned to you. And I am like deep hand in hand. I even go out of my way and meet women that had never even heard of this organization until they were about to be released. So they weren't even working with them pre-release. And then also through my church, we have a federal correctional facility that I don't even know how I got into this, but some women either heard my story, seen my YouTube videos, and reached out to the pastor and his wife. And then they reached out to me and they're like, they just need to know, what do they do? What can they do? What did you do? Tell them what you did, because they're lost. They don't know what to do. They don't know, how they're going to make ends meet when they get out. They need a list of places that they need to go, documents they need to have. There's a lot, but I don't care how tired I get. I don't care what I have going on. It's you can't put a price and you can't put a time on investing in other people.
Well, and it's incredibly important, and it's amazing that you spend so much time away from a busy job and a busy life to really help others in that way. Because, I mean, can you speak to basically what the circumstances are if something like that isn't in place for a woman upon their release?
Yeah, the typical release looks like you have absolutely no communication with the staff before you're about to get released. They make a lot of promises that they're going to get to you, but they're understaffed and over capacity. And so you are given a $50 debit card, a debit card with $50 on it, and you get called in the morning to access, and you're given a bag of documents that you can go and get, like your ID and things like that, and who you're to report to if you're on parole or paper. And then you're walked out the front door, and that's where the buck stops. It's not, where are you going? Is there a plan? Your parole plan is wherever you're releasing to, or they intentionally will have you parole back to the city or wherever you were convicted, which blows my mind. Kind of putting you back into the same situation that you came from, which isn't ideal. And so that's what a typical, and most times, most women don't have anybody. The women are the caretakers. So typically they have, women that will go above and beyond to hold them down, per se, and to be there for them. And they have someone the percentage is much greater that they have someone there when they're released. Women, 9 times out of 10, there's no one there. And that's what it looks like.
So it makes it so meaningful for you to be there when when
they take that $50 and they're so back up against the wall. The first thing you do is revert right back to your trauma-based behavior, your survival techniques. And those are survival techniques and threat assessment mode and all of the things, all of these psychological terms that they put on a given individual are never good. Right. And so, the typical is that they take this $50, they go out and they get high. Like they don't know any other. There's so much more. I've been incarcerated with some very, very talented, bright women. And all they needed was for someone to believe in them like this much, and they don't have it. And I mean, you put a little faith and God and some self-esteem into a woman, it's endless how far they'll go.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And I feel like you've also helped influence Polo to help and to give back and to donate resources. Can you speak a little bit to Polo's involvement now and into helping with this transition too?
Oh, yeah. So the nonprofit organization that I work part-time for, we do a Journey of Hope event where Polo purchased a table and sponsored that event. And so definitely gave us a substantial donation to be able to support this program. And they've bought a concert for the women. They help whenever we have a release come up. I'll, put an email out if I need help getting basic hygiene or household essentials or what have you. And it's like everybody, more than willing to donate, more than willing to be there, has been nice enough to give me time off to be able to go and meet some of these individuals at the prison. So they have someone there when they're getting out, and I take them out to breakfast and I make sure that they get where they need to go. Typically their reporting officer and then whatever housing they have set up. And Polo's just been, and now we're on the brink of a whole proposal that Polo's going to be donating on a continual basis to be able to support this program in another way with even more extensive education and help and resources. And so it's just been, it's beautiful. It really is.
Well, and I think, it is for us. I mean, it's something that we're really happy to be a part of and to support, and makes work that much more rewarding. When you're doing something that makes a difference, it's pretty special. So we appreciate you guiding us in that direction and helping us make a difference in people's lives. And so let's go back to the second chance hiring theme, and why do you believe more companies should consider it, particularly for women and when the circumstances are right?
So there's the untapped labor pool, right? You've got this huge labor pool of an unlimited amount of people. So I don't know how much money Polo, puts out there for recruiting and marketing for just strictly for positions, right?
Yeah,
But
for any company.
I absolutely, I don't know the dollar amount, but I know that it's enough that you want to save that money if you could, right? And then there's when you have a diverse background and you have, sometimes you get this tunnel vision and you're in manufacturing for so long, you know, but when you have a group of individuals that have diverse backgrounds, it really helps to kind of mold your culture. You're able to just not only have a unique culture, but you're able to have more perspectives, which then lead to better innovative ideas. And it's not just so isolated to, and this is, I'm not hitting on anybody, a bunch of people with a bunch of letters behind their names, but you need that. Yes, you do. But having that diverse background really seriously takes your company to a whole nother level, right? It opens up the floor for so many different ideas you had never even thought of, And then there's the recidivism rate, right? We all talk about society as a whole seems to put a label, a stigma, have these different discriminative ideas about incarcerated individuals. But if you really are attempting to lower the recidivism rate, not having to worry about when you're going to your car and having people rob you and all of these things, and you're really seriously concerned, you're not just wanting to incarcerate somebody, giving them that chance, you are really pouring into the community to lower that recidivism rate, lower that crime rate, and cycle these people back into a healthy state, right? So that it's good for everybody. I don't know if people really realize just how much they pay in taxes to help incarcerate these individuals, but I mean, if you really want to break down the numbers, it benefits everybody. It really does. And so I just don't, for so many reasons, I don't see how, when, like you said, it's fitting that an employer wouldn't open up their company to second chance hiring.
No, you touched on a lot of impactful points there. And I guess we'll just wrap with, what advice would you have to someone with a similar background that's seeking to rebuild their life and career?
I say this over and over again, Sean, that you really have to have a committed heart and a made up mind that you want something better out of your life. And you don't take no for an answer, and you keep pushing forward. In my case, I had to develop a relationship with God. I had to trust somebody. and man will let you down every day, because we are all that way. We are all sinful creatures. We all fall short. And I can tell you that it has benefited me tremendously. And it's not just good for me, it's good for everybody. Within a year post release, I was able to purchase my own home by myself. 3 months out, I purchased my own vehicle. I had all of the relationships with my children have been restored. Life has moved so fast. I'm now married and expecting another child, and God has had his hand on me this whole time, but it's not just for me, it's for everybody. But you really have to be committed. And there might be, door after door that might be closed before one's open, but you have to make sure that you're willing to push through those hard times and ask the questions and keep seeking so that you can get your needs met in a healthy way. But it takes a lot of drive.
Yeah, I can't imagine life changing more dramatically than it has for you, Monica. Your journey has just been incredible and so inspiring for us to watch, and you just add value to our team in so many different ways and perspective in the ways that you've mentioned already and shared with our audience today. So thank you so much for sharing your story with our podcast, and really appreciate you being on and all that you bring to Polo.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, encourage our listeners to take note of Monica's journey and to entertain what second chance hiring opportunities you might have within your own companies. So please subscribe, like, comment, and share the podcast if you've tuned in and you get some value out of it. We'll be back on the second Tuesday of the following month. So thank you for tuning in.